Hello everyone, Simon here. Welcome back to our architecture tour of Dishonored. In this video, we are going to visit the Boyle Estate. Hey, look at that scene. Isn't that cool? So the Boyle Estate is the one with the balloons, or the lanterns, on the right there. There's the clock tower, the steel clock tower that we saw in the distance before. It's a bit closer now. So we start off the level dropped off at the canal by Samuel. So we're not going to go to the estate just yet, because on this side of the river there is another part of the city. You'll notice that the surrounding buildings are slightly fancier than most of the city. So remember, in the poorer parts of town, like in the distillery district, most of the buildings are brick, right? Brick and maybe covered with plaster. But here we have stone blocks, so slightly fancier, although architecturally very similar in style, right? The materials is probably slightly more expensive, but the style of the architecture very similar. It's walled off back there because of the plague, as usual. Here we see a brick building here. I'm not sure what this building is meant to be. I think it's more apartments. Wait, let me just see if there's a sign here. No, it's just lights. For sale. So there used to be a shop here. And you notice that the square is quite big too, so compared to the narrower streets in the other parts of the city, this part of the city has wider streets, more expensive buildings, and so this is a richer part of town, is basically the conclusion that we come to. Also, this is walled off again, so we can't go back that way. But just like most of the city, even the rich parts of town is empty and abandoned. So for rent, nobody's renting this stuff. What does this say? Mintry Street. Right, City of Dunwall, Mintry Street. I wonder if there's a map somewhere. Doesn't seem like it. So there's a couple of shops. Old Dunwall Fine Whiskey. Alright. So there's a couple of shops in the middle of the square, and then surrounding the square are white stone apartments, I believe they are. Not sure what kind of stone this is. Could be travertine. Travertine is quite nice, although travertine is expensive. Travertine being a limestone, a kind of limestone in the real world. Although this building is brick, so I'm not sure what to make of that. So in amongst these expensive white stone apartments, there's a brick building, which is shops, and also I think apartments. We can go inside. So let me just come in here and have a look at what this building is meant to be for. Blood from the eyes! Ground floor is shops, right? And then we go upstairs. We're gonna climb over this. Second floor is closed off. If we continue to go upstairs, this is also closed off. Wait a minute. And then, okay, we can get him here. Go away, he doesn't live here anymore. So this is an apartment? Oh, here we go. So there's a bedroom back here. That looks bad. So yeah, so it's become a rather nasty corpse. But this used to be an apartment before the person became a corpse. This is nice. Look at that. Got a balcony, and we've got how many stories? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? 6 stories ish. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, 7 stories, which is about correct for pre-industrial, like a dense pre-industrial city would be about 7 stories. That's about how practical brick buildings can get, or how high a practical brick building can get, approximately. That is before the invention of reinforced concrete and steel frame buildings and all that. Let me just climb back down the staircase. Not too sure why the building in the middle would be brick, because everything else is made of more expensive materials than this. Anyway, so there's security people patrolling this place, although they've been removed for our architecture tour. But if it were not for the case, there would be guards here patrolling and keeping the Weepers at bay. The Weepers being people who have been infected by the plague and who haven't died yet, and they become zombies. Or they become, yeah, zombies, I guess is a good description. So the City Watch, as we see in most part of the game, are also active here. So the canal, as I said earlier, before the invention of road vehicles and automobiles, the canals would be how you move heavy goods around in an old city. And so a lot of the older cities had canals, especially I think London has the river, has the Thames. I believe Amsterdam has a bunch of canals. Let me just look it up. I think Amsterdam. I think Stockholm also has. Amsterdam canals. Well, there's canal cruises these days. Canals of Amsterdam. There you go. In fact, there's a map there. Oh, look at that. That's right. So you see that? So they actually built a rather extensive series of canals in rings around the old cities. So they use the canals to move goods around the city because, having a boat floating in the water and the water being relatively low resistance makes it relatively easy to move goods around as opposed to having to have horses and carts and all that stuff. So, like, big trading cities before the invention of the automobile sometimes had extensive canal networks for the movement of goods. What else can we say about this? Oh, look at that. Oh, this is very similar to what we see in the game. Look at this. This is pretty much what we see in the game, right? So, as we say, a dense pre-industrial city looks like this. Looks like Dunwall in the game. What's 1685? This is quite early, though. Object history, 1880. Bequeathed to the Rijksmuseum. And today it looks like that. Today, it's still quite similar, right? It still looks a lot like Dunwall, although there's cars now. But you'll notice how the cars can't really get anywhere because the streets are so narrow because the city was designed before there were cars. So the cars barely have enough space to park and move. And so the boats, basically like in a more modern city, the water would be the road where the cars are. But before cars were invented, they would have canals instead, and the boats would be the vehicles that you travel along the canals on. You see how that works, right? So now there's cars as well, but there's really not much room for these cars on the side of the canals. All right, so that's the old cities for you. So Dunwall is similar, right? Dunwall is similar. We have very similar looking buildings, European medieval. Well, not just medieval, but pre-industrial buildings, canals for heavy goods, and then these new steel bridges. Look at that. So this steel bridge has been retrofitted, and you can see how the frame of it just sits on the stone. So new steel bridges have been retrofitted onto the old stone canals. What's that sound? So that's pretty cool, right? That's pretty cool. And further along there's also another steel bridge. This one can be raised, I think. Or the implication is that it can be raised. I think can it be raised? There's machinery here. I think the implication is that it can be raised. Oh, and then there's new tram tracks too. Although that doesn't quite join up smoothly, but there is also new tram tracks. So this is a main road in the city, right? Oh, cool. So this is one of the main roads in the city, except we can't go very far that way. So on this side, everything's abandoned. I guess it's a summary. The summary I want to take from this is that everything's abandoned to the plague, and everything's falling apart, and nobody lives here anymore. I guess there's like there's one light there, there's one light there. I guess maybe like 1 or 2 of the apartments are still occupied, but mostly abandoned. And then there is the Boyle Estate. So the Boyle Estate, B-O-Y-L-E. The Boyle Estate is surrounded by crumbling and abandoned parts of the city. We can't get through here. Actually, I can. Can I just climb? I can't just climb in. Alright, let me just climb over that. So the main road continues out that way, and there's more.
I told her they were trash.
More of the same buildings out there. Although I guess these cars are allowed through because look, there's a gate. There's a gate in the barricade there. And I suppose these cars can actually travel through if they are allowed to. Not much going on here. Another part of the city. So the Boyle Estate is this red brick. But in this case, not because brick is cheap, but because it's old. Because this building is older than the white stone stuff. I believe that is what is implied. You'll notice there's patterns in the brick, right? There's a shiny bricks and then there's the rough bricks. So it's more decorative, and then the embedded columns on the side, and then there's decorative stuff up there. Although the main entrance to the estate is not that impressive. Like from here, it doesn't look very impressive. Should we go in? Let's go in. As we come in here, red brick. It does present a bit of color as opposed to the surrounding white buildings. Maybe what is implied is that that is also older than the surrounding white buildings. That's possible. But in that case, that would imply that this stone wall is newer than the old manor. So there's the manor itself, and then there's the surrounding stone walls. Maybe that's what it means. That the manor used to be there, and maybe that used to be a supporting building for the estate. And then they walled it off. And then as the rest of the city got built around it. I think that could be possible. Not too sure, I'm speculating a lot here. But that's one interpretation of what we see. Wow, look how fancy this stuff is. See the detailing on the corners there, and then you have the railings, and then you have the stained glass, and then you have all this little detailing. Very fancy stuff, and the Boyles are aristocracy. This is the guardhouse. The guardhouse is significantly less fancy.
I should cut them out in time.
So, this is the gatehouse, and this is the staff area, so not as impressive. Let me just eat that apple. Huh, well the door is gilded at least, on both sides. I mean, it'd be funnier if the door was only gilded on the outside and not on the inside, right? Anyway, the door is gilded on both sides. And there is a party going on, that's why there's decorations everywhere. So we come up the ramp into a courtyard. That is... on the outside it looks similar, although on the inside we will see that it's actually a service area, or is it a guardhouse? I don't quite remember what this is. So the interior is kind of rough, so I think this is meant to be a guardhouse, yeah. So the guards sleep here. Oh, there's another apartment on the other side. I don't think it's worthwhile. Well, let me just come over here. Excuse me while I do this backwards. So, we're back outside the estate. This is a rather fancy apartment, although it's been abandoned for some time. Most of the furniture has been removed. But this is one of the white buildings, right? If I can get on a balcony somewhere to show you. Actually, I can't find a balcony. So, this is one of the white buildings surrounding the estate. And you can see there's a bit of decorations on the railings and on the walls. And the rooms, if we don't mind the decay, the rooms are kind of fairly well Like they're fairly large, and the apartments are kind of nice. So you can see there's the ceiling decorations, and I mean it would be quite nice, except for the fact that it's been abandoned for a while, right? All right, so upper middle class, I would say. Upper middle class, maybe even upper class. Difficult to tell. No, probably upper middle class apartments surrounding the Boyle Estate. And like it's quite nice. I mean, there's multiple rooms, a fairly large apartment with a balcony. It's quite nice. I mean, it's bigger than some of the other apartments we've seen in the game. Anyway, let me just climb back into the Boyle Estate through here. Alright, so this building is for the guards to sleep in. And there's also a storage area over here. It's rather run down on the inside. On the outside though, it looks fairly good, although you'll notice that it is less decorative and there's fewer windows than the main manor, which is there. Strangely, we can't actually get a great view of the main manor because you can't step back and look at it. So the manor faces into an interior courtyard. It doesn't even face outside, it faces inwards. You see what I mean? Like everything is closed off, and the actual front door doesn't open to the outside, it opens to another version of the inside. Like I mean, we're outdoors, but we are inside a courtyard surrounded by walls. And this is significant because the story or the theme is that the aristocracy of Dunwall are detached and disconnected from reality. Like while the rest of the city is falling apart and dying to the plague, these people are having a fancy dress party in their manor. So the aristocracy, they're all just turning inwards, and they're having a good time by themselves while the world around them falls apart. And so the fact that the architecture, like the main manor, the front door of the manor faces into their own courtyard instead of facing the outside world, is also consistent with that theme. And while I'm onto it, like these lanterns, these are vaguely Chinese lanterns. In fact, let me just look this up for you. If you're not familiar with the shape of these lanterns, so Chinese lanterns look like that, especially these ones, right? In fact, is there a Chinese lantern Wikipedia? I mean, there are a number of forms or sky. Yeah. Look, this is the typical Chinese lantern. Is this shape? And you'll notice that this is basically what we're looking at here, except Chinese lanterns are red and these are white. In Chinese culture, red is the color of happiness and celebration, whereas the color white is the color of funerals. Like white business is a funeral in Chinese culture. And if you remember back at the Golden Cat, we talk about how exotic architectural forms were appropriated to make a brothel. In this case, this is, I mean, as somebody who knows different cultures, we would read this as the aristocracy of Dunwall appropriating another exotic culture, in this case, a Chinese culture. But they are misappropriating it because they got the shape, but they use a different color that completely reverses the meaning from one of celebration to one of death. And ironically, that is consistent with what we're doing in the game, because the game has me coming to this party to kill Lady Boyle. Like the mission is to assassinate Lady Boyle. And so the notion that these lanterns have been misinterpreted from a celebratory thing into a funeral thing actually is is a form of theatrical irony, right? So, and but we have to keep in mind that the game is supposedly fictional, so it's not like it takes inspiration from the real world, but is there actually a Chinese culture in the game? Like there isn't, or the game doesn't mention anything about that. But as anyone who understands, well, anyone who knows about Chinese lanterns in the real world would read this stuff, would notice that okay, the shape of these are Chinese lanterns, but the Chinese considered white to be death, and so this is celebrating death. Something like this. So that sort of irony, it's not explicit in the game, but it's something that the player can read as the intent from the game designer, even though like this cultural stuff, like we're drawing from cultural understandings from outside the game to interpret what we see in the game, whereas like it's not actually presented in the game as that. But I mean, this is pretty interesting, right? Anyway, so it's another case of cultural misappropriation by the people of Dunwall, not by the game designers. I think the game designers meant for us to read it this way, and they meant for that irony to be there. But it's supposed to indicate how the aristocracy in the game, they're kind of ignorant, right? They're ignorant of the disaster that's unfolding around them, while they have this party inside their own mansion. Is what's going on. There's also another little garden over here, or another little courtyard. This one actually overlooks the city. Now I should probably walk this way first. So there's another garden here. There's a balcony up there too. I think we'll go there at the end. So this is, well, this potentially overlooks the city, but you'll notice that a lot of the plants and a lot of the trees here actually block off the rest of the city. So again, the idea that the people here are walling themselves off from the outside, and they're almost like ignoring the outside world. And you notice these trees, we can't really see them from the other side. If you remember, it just looks like a giant stone wall. Maybe I can go back out there just to remind you what it looks like. So from the inside, like it's this beautiful, verdant, lush garden with trees and flowers and all the color and then the house and lanterns and a party. So from the inside, everything looks luxurious and vibrant and alive. Whereas if you remember, if we go back outside again, let me just run back over here. Whereas if we go back outside, from the outside, it's just a stone wall. Like it's just a blank stone wall that keeps you out. It's oppressive, it's alienating, it's inhumane, like it's cold, it's hard. All those bad words. Oh, that's the wrong skill, my bad. Let me just switch over. So from the outside, it's just a fortress, and all the trees are up there. You can't reach them, right? They're there. You can kind of see them, but they're inaccessible, and you can't see the flowers. You can't see most of the colors, so it's just keeping you out. It's like a fortress that keeps you out. So this kind of two-faced arrangement, where from the inside it looks beautiful and vibrant, but from the outside it's very clearly alienating and oppressive and dominating. That is clearly intentional, right? Again, the idea that the aristocracy in the game keep all the good stuff for themselves, while walling off the poor people on the outside. All right, let's go indoors. Actually, no, we want to see what's up here first.
Sir. Warmer indoors.
So the terrace is alright. More flowers, more trees, more flowers, more plants. Look how colorful this is. I mean, it's just the contrast with the outside is so dramatic, right? Look how bright and colorful everything is. Crazy. Alright, let's go inside. Oh, before we go inside, just remember the shape of the manor. There's a door here There was a door on the other side, so it's an L-shaped manner. I wanna point that out because it's easy to get lost on the inside. So it's an L shape. We're walking in. It's not. It's an L shape. So if you imagine, if I just tilt that up, so we're looking at the front door where my thumb is. That's the front door, and then there's a thing on that side. Is this hand? So it's an L shape, and we're going in. Actually, no, it's back to front, isn't it? Sorry, that's probably more confusing than clarifying. It's back to front because it's mirrored off. So I'm trying to figure out how to explain this to you. We've seen that before. We don't need to focus on that. All right. So on this side, this is the shorter L or the base of. Wow, look how shiny that is. There's like confetti falling down from the ceiling, and everything sparkles. Look how shiny everything is. Look how shiny this is. Okay, I mean, it's pretty low res. Look how gilded and shiny everything. Look at the floor. Look how shiny the floor is. And look at the lights. And look at the people. And look at the statues. Look how shiny the statues are. Whale statues, right? I mean, I don't know if there's anything I need to say about all of this. I think you can tell what we're looking at. We're just looking at gilded, shiny, sparkly things. I mean, that's basically it. Oh, and then the whales throw confetti too. That's cool. Is that seriously a glass ceiling? That's seriously a stained glass ceiling. That is incredible. Do these things exist in the real world? That is actually quite incredible. Let me just stained glass ceiling. Stained glass ceiling. Okay, well, what buildings have stained glass ceiling? I mean, of course they exist, but what are some notable? Oh, it's not actual architectural things. This is a oh, this is a phrase or a figure of speech. Okay, never mind. Anyway, so that's a stained glass ceiling, an actual one, not a figure of speech, but an actual stained glass ceiling. It's so sparkly. I just want to look at it for longer. Look how sparkly that is. All right, let's walk around a little bit. So at the end of this L, we have a library filled with a lot of books, big paintings, wood paneling, quite detailed. So this is the most opulent detailing that we've seen in the entire game, right? Even more luxurious than the most luxurious apartments we've seen so far. Man, look at that fireplace. Look how much detail is on the fireplace. That mask is a bit weird. Look at this furniture. I mean, okay, it's not that good. Look at this. Look at this couch. And the curtains? Curtains? Thick red curtains. Oh wait, what's... Oh, never mind. That's not anything. Paintings.
Welcome to the Boyle Estate.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for welcoming me. So there's a library, or like a study on this side, and then along the back. Okay, there's an upstairs too. We'll go upstairs later. Along the back, we have this is the corridor. Corridor at the back, and then what is it? Like a smoking room? There's a fireplace there. I don't know what this room is. I think this actually is a smoking room.
If you want to be beaten, go right ahead. Let your family starve. Sell your wife into prostitution. I'm sure I can get you a good price.
You son of a bitch.
There's the old pirate spirit. Things are changing too fast to give up just yet. First that nasty mess with the Empress, now the High Overseer's gone. Parliament is shifting. The whole city's turning upside down.
Right there?
If we only had a good war to get into.
There you are. Although at this stage, I don't know who we could beat.
But don't you see, we don't need to win a war, only lose it. Everything's revalued, and we let the conquerors worry about the problems.
Interesting. I'll be informing the Lord Regent of your ideas in the morning.
You don't mean
Yes. Well,
Have another
again,
drink, Byron. They don't serve cocktails
the
in
aristocracy
Hold on,
are
I need a cigar.
out of touch. Out of touch. Any responsible? I think this is a smoking room. Everybody in this room is smoking. We're not gonna spend too much time listening to. Wow. There's fabric on the ceiling as well. Why would this seems? I mean, I'm just. This is unnecessarily extravagant. Excessively extravagant. What? Okay, now there's white curtains on this side, so there's red on the other side, there's white on this side. There's fabric on the walls and the ceiling. Let's look at the toilet. This is the toilet. Okay, there's no fabric in the toilet at least. But the toilet is also okay. It's not quite as nice as the outside. Hey, look at all this fabric.
Welcome to the party.
What is this room?
Enjoying yourself.
Oh, a piano room. Look at that. The piano has 3 layers. That's not really playing, is it? That's more like just banging on the keys. Alright, so there's a piano room over here.
Ooh, scary mask.
More fabric everywhere. This is the dining room.
Doing all right there?
What did she expect? I told her they were trash.
Dining room, there's food. There's a giant fish there. I'm not gonna eat any of that food. Oh, back here is the kitchen. Before we go into the kitchen, let me just finish looking through here. So this is, back out. Let me just go back out here to show you where we are now. Just in case we got lost. So if you remember, this is the other side of the L, right? So we went through one end and we came out the other end. Alright, let's go back in. So as I said, the shape of the building is an L. Is an L. Is that I can't. It's mirrored. The webcam is mirrored. Anyway, so if we come through here on this side, so in the corner of the L, we have another study filled with books. All right, more books and slightly different color this time. So it's green. So there was like a red room. And then there was like a white room, and now there's a green room. And everything is overly extravagant, and then we're back in the main hall. Alright, good. I'm back in the sparkly ceiling. Is there anything that I need to really... I don't think there's any explaining it. You just look at it and it just looks expensive, right? What else is there to say? Alright, let's go look around. So, behind the dining room is the kitchen, which makes sense. Like, it makes sense to have the dining room near the kitchen. Dining room... The kitchen, which we haven't seen yet, is downstairs. Downstairs here
Ooh, scary mask.
is the kitchen. So this is again the service area. So once we get into the service areas, you'll notice that everything is rather less well maintained and rather less extravagant, right? The walls are peeling, and then this is the kitchen, and the tables are certainly very utilitarian and not very extravagant. This is where the kitchen staff sleep, I guess. And over here we have a bit of storage, so there's nothing in here though. And then we have a stove and a giant fish. Actually, where did they cook that giant fish? I think we're missing a giant oven, because where would you cook this giant fish otherwise? Let's try and find a giant oven somewhere. So back here we have a sink, we have more stoves and more food. And then down here we have more storage, and this is just brick. So this is old. Old and not particularly well maintained. So down in the cellar we have pipes, and we have alcohol in barrels, and more alcohol in barrels. More alcohol in barrels, more alcohol in barrels. More storage. Back here is more storage. And then down the bottom, this is interesting.
Where is she? Hurry and bring her to me.
I think they brew their own alcohol here too, but this goes out into the canal system. So the goods and the various foods and whatever they need to bring in comes in from the canal instead of the front door, right? This goes into the sewers. So this is the service entrance where they bring it, and if you remember, we talked about how the cargo would come in on ships because it's easier to move cargo by ships than by, I don't know, horse-drawn carriages. So there's even a little dock for the ships to come in and bring goods. But this is all for the workers and not for the aristocracy to deal with. Let's go back up. This, if you're wondering, if you need to roll barrels, or if you need to move barrels upstairs, you need to roll them up, and so then you put the planks on the staircase and you roll the barrels up the stairs instead of trying to drag them up the staircase, right? Okay, so man, I mean, this is kind of, I mean, compared to the sparkly ceiling, the sparkly glass ceiling, this is rather more ordinary. So even within the Boyle Manor, there is this huge disparity between the rich and the poor, and this is within the same house, within the same building. The aristocracy live in such luxury, whereas the workers are ordinary. Let's just put it that way. They live in ordinary circumstances. Alright, let's go back out. Let's go upstairs, shall we? We've been downstairs to the basement. Let's go upstairs now. So if we can walk back over here. We need to sneak upstairs, or at least not be observed going upstairs because it's trespassing. So if I just... oops, don't do that. If I just sneak upstairs here, we are now trespassing. Alright, so up these stairs and get closer to the glass ceiling. Look at that, that's crazy. I'm not sure if that is correct. Why would that be stained glass? So shiny. Alright, so let's stop staring at that. So upstairs is timber, so a little bit more modest, not quite as sparkly. This is the toilet. Timber, and it also makes sense to have a timber upper story or on top of a wooden lowest. Not wooden. As a stone lower floor and then the timber upper floor, because timber is lighter, right? So you put the lighter thing on top of the heavier thing. Whereas if you put the heavy thing on top of the light thing, then you just crush the timber underneath. So it seems like the upper floor is in fact mostly timber, whereas the lower floor is stone. You see those stone blocks there in the walls. Alright, so on this side we have a bedroom. A massive bedroom. If you're paying attention, the size of this bedroom is bigger than one of the studio apartments for the ordinary citizens of Dunwall. So, just one bedroom for the aristocracy is the size of 2 apartments for normal people. Alright, so this bedroom is purple. There's the curtains, there's the fireplace, there's the books. Of course there's the bed, and it's got its own... well, it doesn't have its own toilet. It's got a... I guess it's meant to be a wardrobe. Well, I mean, that's a wardrobe. Even flowers on the inside. Even in the bedroom, there are colorful flowers. Although, you know, rather open and empty. Like, it's not... It's actually kind of empty. I wonder if that's supposed to mean something. Right? It's not filled with stuff. So I guess in private, I mean, it's luxurious, but also not exactly filled with things. Here we have... I guess this is the antique collection or something. It's a room filled with probably expensive stuff inside these display cases. I'm not sure what you would use this room for. I mean, there's a fireplace and a seat in front of it. Let me just go back out. Around the side here, we have another bedroom here. This is black. Otherwise, very similar. We have painting, we have wood paneling, we have curtains, we have the bed. No bookcase in this one. But we have the wardrobe and the vanity. Alright, so our bedroom. This is kind of nice. There's a carpet on the floor. Was there no carpet on the other floor? I wonder if this is meant to reflect the personalities of the people who sleep here. I can't really read very much into them except they are big and rather well furnished. Oh, there's another library up here, or study, although there's a sink here. That's weird. Why would there be a sink in a library? Strange. And then the third bedroom, there are 3 Lady Boyles. This one is red. And there's alcohol. And there's carpet, there's the drapes, and then there's the fireplace, and then there's the wood paneling, and so on, and so on, and so on, and the flowers. So the 3 bedrooms are fairly similar, except they have different color themes. And you'll notice the 3 bedrooms are in the 3 corners of the building. And this provides privacy, right? So if you want to bring a guest to your bedroom, there are paths to get to the bedrooms without having to go past the other bedrooms. So this maximizes the privacy for each person in their bedroom. Right, so a bedroom is at the very end there, and then there's a bedroom in the very corner there, and then there's a bedroom in the very corner on this side. So that's something worth noting, I guess. Behind this bedroom, the staircase goes back down to the kitchen. So, like, once we get past it, back into the service area, where the workers are, like, we're back into this peeling surfaces and the rather ordinary surfaces back in the service areas. Alright, and then here we are, no longer trespassing, and we're back in the dining room. Right. I don't think there's too much more to say. I mean, most of this video is just a tour. Like, there's not much to say about the interior because it's just opulence. Like, there's no... Can't really think of any story or any message that the game is trying to tell. The lanterns have a message, I believe, and we've talked about that. But the interiors, I think, it's just money and wealth. And of course, there's the contrast between where the staff work and live and where the aristocracy live. Like the stark contrast. Alright, so now we're up on the balcony. If we look back, that's the main entrance, as we've said before, and the and the white lanterns. And the garden is down there, as we saw earlier. I don't want to jump off though. So from the balcony, we can look out into the city a little bit. Although even up here, you can see how the the lanterns get in the way. And the trees still partially block the view, so, oops, wrong button. So you can kind of see the city decaying away in the background from this balcony. What a contrast, right? What a contrast. The inside and outside, like the garden on the inside, and then the blank wall on the outside. Like, what a huge contrast between the luxury here and the distress that the city is in on the outside. Alright, so I think that ends this video. Very interesting message and an architecture of contrast in the Boyle Manor, and of course the white Chinese lanterns. I mean, if you I mean, I'm Chinese, and if you really understand, white means funerals in Chinese culture, and so it's and you don't have funeral lanterns because you don't celebrate funerals. It's like it's so weird. If you're familiar with those Chinese culture, this is so weird. If you're not, then they just look like balloons, I guess. Alright, I'm gonna end the video here. I'll see you in the next one.